Hey guys, Bulletin25 here, watching the launch of Inmarsat 5, Flight 4. Yeah, SpaceX launch, Falcon 9, yada yada, you get the rest.
Welcome to the webcast of the Falcon 9 mission carrying Inmarsat. You're seeing a live view of Falcon 9 preparing for launch in just under 10 minutes from now. Launch is currently scheduled at 23 hours, 21 minutes Universal Time or 7:21 p.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time. Good evening, I'm John Innsbrucker, Falcon 9 Principal Integration Engineer, and I'll be bringing you coverage of the SpaceX launch of Inmarsat 5 Flight 4 during the webcast. Now you're currently looking at a view of Launch Complex 39A.
You can see no landing legs.
This is one of two launch complexes on Kennedy Space Center, where we have seen in the history the launch of the Saturn V's in support of the Apollo program, as well as the 135 space shuttle launches. Now, SpaceX leased the pad a few years ago and began modifications to support both Falcon 9 and Falcon Heavy. This is our fifth flight from Complex 39A. All of them have been this year. Now, one thing that's not visible in the view of the pad right now is the hangar at the southern edge of Complex 39A. Now that hangar houses both Falcon 9s and Falcon Heavy stages. You can see the hangar in the corner of the image.
There, yep, that.
Final integration of the Falcon with the payload is also performed in the hangar, after which we'll open up the door on the north end of the hangar
and roll the
Falcon
vehicle
9 out up
to the pad.
through that slow incline up to what we call the crown of the launch mount. Now that's an elevated area above the surrounding area. This allows us to put a large flame bucket underneath the vehicle and divert the
Don't you mean flame trench?
noise away from the rocket.
I think he means flame
Now
trench.
also in this view, you can see behind the Falcon 9 is a fixed service structure.
That's from the
Topped
shuttle
off
days.
with a large lightning rod on top. It looks a little bit like it's coming out of the top of the Falcon 9 payload
It
fairing.
does,
Off to
actually.
the left in your view is the rotating service structure. SpaceX is currently slowly demolishing that structure. It has no use. It wasn't needed after it finished supporting the space shuttle missions. Now on the pad you can see our standard two-stage Falcon 9 topped off with the long payload fairing, inside of which is the Inmarsat satellite. Now in the close-up views of the rocket, you may have noticed there are no landing legs, there are no grid fins on the first stage.
Therefore, it's
They
not
were
going to be
installed.
recovered.
There's no plan to recover this first stage. So instead of watching a first stage recovery during part of the webcast, our coverage today will focus solely on the second stage as it heads into orbit. Now we're at T-minus 6 minutes and 45 seconds, continuing to count down. And let's talk about status out at Complex 39A. The SpaceX team currently working no issues on the Falcon 9. We rolled out to the pad over 24 hours ago and began loading fuel at T-minus 60 minutes. That's 10 minutes sooner, or later I should say, in the countdown than recently we've been doing it. We've been compressing the countdown. Currently, fuel is loaded on the second stage, and we're closing out fuel loading on the first stage. Liquid oxygen loading began inside of T-minus 35 minutes. That's going to continue up until the last 2 to 3 minutes before liftoff. On the spacecraft side, the Inmarsat team has transferred the internal power. They've done their final checks. They're working no issues, and they are ready for launch on time at 21 minutes after the hour. On the range side of the house, we're launching out of Kennedy Space Center headed due east. Range has made sure that everything is clear for us. There's nobody in the hazard areas. And then finally the weather. Late evening at Kennedy Space Center. Looks like gorgeous weather. We've got 90% probability of good weather. In fact, we don't see anything coming up on the horizon in the next 5.5 minutes. So
That's
right
one way
now,
to put it.
Falcon 9, Inmarsat, the range, and the weather are all go for launch.
So guys, I will only be here for the first burn. Afterwards, I will record the rest of the video. But you will not get to my amazing commentary. That was obviously sarcasm. I'll just have the You're playing,
Today, SpaceX is launching
and you might
Inmarsat
see them in
5
separate
Flight 4,
pieces, so
or as you might have seen
I'll
on their
upload the
feed,
first bit,
I5F4. So on behalf
have
of
that
our
up, and then
customer,
tomorrow morning
Inmarsat,
I'll get the whole thing
Inmarsat
put
was
together.
originally set up in 1979 by the International Maritime Organization to enable ships to stay in constant contact with the shore and to call for help in an emergency, no matter how far out to sea. Today, Inmarsat's customers cover many different sectors, with the common thread being the need to communicate in places where terrestrial telecom networks are unreliable or simply
So
cannot
basically
reach.
just how to communicate from the middle of
Inmarsat
nowhere.
5F4
Just the dumbed down
is
version.
the fourth satellite in the Global Express constellation, the world's first globally available high-speed mobile broadband service. As the only operator of a global Ka-band network, Inmarsat created the Global X platform to enable communities across the world to benefit from the emerging digital society. Inmarsat's GX network entered global commercial service in December 2015. Inmarsat 5 Flight 4 adds further capacity to the network, as well as in-orbit redundancy that further upgrades the reliability and resilience of Inmarsat service offerings. The first 4 Global Express satellites, including today's Flight 4, were constructed by Inmarsat's partner, Boeing Network and Space Systems.
You can see the fucking inventing the liquid oxygen, or well, liquid oxygen that has boiled off. That's what you can see being vented there.
We're just inside T-minus 3 minutes. We're continuing to count down. We have completed LOX loading on the first stage. You can see the GOX plumes coming off of the second stage.
Did you say GOX? Well, I know that's probably gaseous oxygen.
It'll move all the way back at liftoff. Next major event's coming up at T-minus 2 minutes. We'll finish liquid oxygen loading on the second stage. At T-minus 1 minute, you'll hear the call startup. That's where the flight computer takes over control of the countdown.
I've seen plenty of Falcon launches. I know this.
Just before T-minus 0. At T0, when we make sure we're at full power, the flight computer will command liftoff. Falcon 9 will then begin heading to space. So right now, it's coming up on T-minus 2 minutes and counting. Let's listen to the countdown of Falcon 9 with Inmarsat.
Stage 2 LOX closed out. Falcon 9 is on internal power.
Okay, the vehicle still hasn't entered startup yet. Approximately 1.5 minutes to lift off.
Vehicles in self-align.
Self-align. I presume that's kind of when the computer starts kind of look around, calibrate. That's the word I'm looking for.
AFTS, go for launch.
DC verify F9 is in startup.
Falcon 9's in startup. All ground side gas closeouts are complete. Stage 1, Stage
LD
2,
verify, go for
present for
launch.
flight.
LD's go for launch. T-minus 30.
30 seconds to launch.
T-minus 20.
20 seconds.
Falcon 9's configured for flight.
15 seconds.
T-minus 10.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Engine start. Ignition. lift off of the Falcon 9 carrying Inmarsat, however the bloody hell you pronounce that. And the Falcon's off. That's like a shot. Yeah, it's so strange seeing one without landing these, even though I saw them quite recently. One of the recent launches was also one of these. No landing leg launches.
Just over T plus 1 minute into flight. We're hearing nominal callouts. The Merlin
Nominal
engines
just means
rumble
normal.
down in
Everything is
preparation
normal.
for passing
Okay,
the
yada yada.
period of maximum dynamic pressure.
Vehicle experiencing maximum aerodynamic pressure.
That's maximum dynamic pressure or max Q is when the most aerodynamic, the largest amount of aerodynamic stress is exerted on the vehicle. I was basically going to say the same thing.
End of flight. We're through the period of maximum dynamic pressure. The Merlin engines are throttled back up to full power. Trajectory, performance continue to look nominal.
So you can see this will be, yeah, you can see this is a longer stage burn than normal, because I think last time the burn was, I think it was like 136 seconds. So that's a minute and 16 seconds, 2 minutes and 16 seconds. You can see this burn will be longer
In fact, engine
because
shells
more
are down.
fuel needs to be used, because this is the heaviest payload ever lofted
Put oxygen
by
on
a Falcon
top of
9.
The turbo pump for the second stage engine, chilling it in as we prepare for stage separation and then ignition of the upper stage engine.
See, this is when NRL is separated.
Next major event coming up in less than 30 seconds is going to be main engine cutoff.
So you can see this is a much longer burn than normal. They're burning out all the fuel they have in that stage. They don't have the option to. They really don't have the option to landing. They could do one of the ones they did with the 1.1 on the barge, I think. Oh, wait, no. No, they never attempted the 1.1s on the barge. Well, the early FTs on the barge. FT full thrust. There we go. So the first stage and second stage have separated, and the first stage has ignited. Why are they showing a view from the separated first stage that won't be attempting to recover? Are they showing us what would happen if
T plus 3
they
minutes
just leave
and
it?
15 seconds into flight. A good stage separation. Ignition of the upper stage engine. Next event coming up in about 15 seconds. Fairing separation.
Yeah, I think they are keeping one eye on the first stage. So the fairings have separated. This is interesting. Are they going to show us that stage re-enter without control? Because if so, I am curious.
Plus 3 minutes, 50 seconds.
Oh yeah, that has like another plan for recovering, like gliding it to the Azores or something. I am joking, by the way. Or perhaps the Bahamas.
This will go until about T plus 8 minutes and 38 seconds.
So 4 more
At which time we would
minutes.
shut down in a parking orbit around the Earth.
Are you going to mention the fact that you're still...
Second stage engine is on the first of 2 planned burns. As I said, the first one will put us in a parking orbit, followed by a second burn about 27 minutes into flight that would put Inmarsat into a geostationary transfer orbit, followed shortly afterwards by spacecraft separation. Performance continues to look nominal on the upper stage. Chamber pressures look good, engine looks good, trajectory looks good.
I'm keeping a close eye on the first stage. That's interesting. Are they showing us like a ballistic re-entry? If so, that is pretty interesting. So you can actually see it is smoking, but I think that's just exhaust. And they stopped.
T plus 5 minutes into the flight of Falcon 9 carrying Inmarsat 5 F4. Performance
Crap, why did I do
continues
this?
to be nominal.
Give me a moment.
We're heading.
No, are they not? Oh, they're not doing the other video. So quickly pop back here, full screen.
Cast. T plus 6 minutes. Performance continues to be nominal.
Got
About
boosted
2.5
the quality
minutes
there.
left in this first burn of the upper stage engine.
The MVAC
As a
or Merlin
reminder,
vacuum.
In webcasts in the first stage is not being targeted to return to land or the drone ship. So today we're staying with the second stage all the way to orbit.
Even though you had that view from the first stage there. Even though, like you said, it's not going to land.
Follow the nominal trajectory.
Nominal equals normal for those of you who aren't that familiar with space language. I guess you could call it.
T plus 7 minutes into flight. MVAC engine continues working. Everything continues to look good for Falcon 9.
What's all this
Lower
owing?
parking orbit.
So see, what is all this owing? What are they seeing that I'm not? I want to see whatever they're seeing. I'm pretty sure they have something planned that we don't know about. And this being SpaceX, SpaceX, one of them, right? SpaceX and Elon.
Started terminal guidance.
Terminal guide. I have a feeling there is something more to this than we know. With the whole broadcast continuing.
T plus 8 minutes into flight. We're just over half a minute away from the planned shutdown of the MVAC-D engine on the second stage. Trajectory looks nominal. Propulsion continues to look nominal. And when we get shut down, we'll wait and listen for the call from the guidance engineer letting us know how the orbit looks.
Okay, we're about to have second Seco 1, let's refer to it as.
They've been back cut off.
Right, so we have MVAC cut off. Yeah, see, that's what I'm on about. They show the trajectory of stage 1. Do they want to have like a... I'm confused.
We've had shutdown of the upper stage engine right on time. Trajectory looks good. It looks like we have a good parking orbit. So this completes the first of 2 burns of the second stage engine. Now we're currently going through a coast phase. Is the second stage with Inmarsat still attached? Coast
Inmarsat.
over Africa. We will reacquire telemetry and follow the second burn of the upper stage engine. That'll be at about T plus 27 minutes. So the plan right now is we'll continue the webcast, but we'll come back with status updates starting at T plus 26 minutes. And meanwhile, we'll leave you with this view of the animation. The second stage heads towards Africa, successfully into the low Earth parking orbit, preparing for the second burn of the upper stage, coming up in just under 17 minutes and 10 seconds.
So guys,
That'll end our commentary. We'll be back in 2 plus 26 minutes.
And send my commentary for this entire flight. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the deployment, and yeah. It's just going to continue from here, but yeah, see you. Well, you'll see this first, and then you'll see the other part, so see you then. Oh, well, you won't see me. Yada yada, you get the point, see ya.
Welcome back to the webcast. John Isberger here at Hawthorne. We're at T plus 26 minutes and 20 seconds into the flight of Falcon 9 carrying Inmarsat 5 Flight 4. Currently, the second stage with Inmarsat attached is approaching the equator off of Africa. This is where we're going to light the upper stage engine. This burn's going to last about a minute. Currently, we are pulsing small cold gas settling thrusters to make sure the propellant's at the bottom of the tank right at the inlet to the engine. So we're waiting to watch for the upper stage engine ignition coming up in just about 10 seconds or so. You might hear the applause in the background. MVAC engine has relit. This is the start of about a 1-minute burn. You can see from the velocity meter on the screen, we're adding in thousands of meters per second to bring the Inmarsat spacecraft from the parking orbit up to the desired geostationary transfer orbit. As I said, this burn will last about a minute total. Then we'll wait and hear how the orbit looks. Tank pressures are looking good. Propulsion is nominal. Trajectory looks good.
Maybe go.
We've had main engine cutoff. We're waiting to hear. We've had SECO, I should say. The MVAC engine is shut down. We're waiting to hear from guidance how the orbit looks.
It's a good transfer orbit.
You heard Launch Director call out just now a good transfer orbit. So that completes the second of the 2 planned burns of the upper stage engine. You can see the nozzle now cooling back down to the background temperature of space after it burned for the 1 minute to add enough velocity to move us into the desired transfer orbit. Now, spacecraft separation is currently planned for just under T plus 32 minutes. So we're going to pause our coverage for the moment, but we'll be back for the deployment of the Inmarsat spacecraft just before T plus 32 minutes. T plus 31 minutes and 27 seconds since launch. We're waiting for the final major event of this afternoon's mission, the separation of the Inmarsat spacecraft from the Falcon 9. So we're going to just listen along with everybody as we wait for a call out of separation.
Spacecraft.
We've had confirmation of spacecraft separation. Looks like, unfortunately, we were not able to bring the video to you, but we did hear the voiceover from SpaceX launch director out at Launch Complex 39A. So that's going to bring an end to our webcast. It's been a great afternoon, evening out at Kennedy Space Center. We counted down with excellent weather, launched right on time. The first stage did great. The second stage went through 2 burns just as planned. And now we've topped it off with the separation of Inmarsat 5 Flight 4 spacecraft for our Inmarsat customer. So we've had good orbits, good separation, all you can ask for today. And so we just want to end today with our thank yous to NASA and the Air Force for range support, the Federal Aviation Administration, and of course our Inmarsat customer. We invite you to follow us on our Twitter feed as well as Instagram and our webpage at spacex.com. And finally, thanks for letting us share the mission of Falcon 9 with you. Until our next webcast, goodbye.